Have you heard the story about Ronald the janitor that had $8 million in savings when he died in the year 2014? Probably you did. It is said that he didn't win the lottery or inherit the money either. He just saved consistently throughout his life. He fully relied on banks' compound interest duty. The moral is that your behavior with money is oftentimes more important than how intelligent you are. Even if you are not a graduate of Oxford University or work with international stock markets company, you can become rich by just behaving in a sound way. Morgan Housel once said that, financial success is not a hard science. It's a soft skill, where how you behave is more important than what you know. Invest your attention in the next 10 to 15 minutes on this video, and you might excel on the soft skill of investing. This Swedish investor, Mr. Morgan Housel, gave out free knowledge to everybody who would find out the information from his print, The Psychology of Money. His print brings you the best tips and tools for reaching financial freedom through stock market investing. Make sure to subscribe and like so that this information reaches other people too. Number 5, you should be able to pay the price. For instance, you want a flashy car, you go to the automobile store to check out the offerings. You are really after something that is unique and will impress your surrounding. The only choice you have is either to pay for the car or steal it. I don't know how you can steal a car anyway, maybe if you've exercised it properly maybe. I know you are most likely going to pay for it no matter your physical capacity. You would take out your card and buy it definitely. The same thing happens with investments. This group of investments brings distinct characteristic to your performance. It will be erratic. This is the price, the fee, for having high returns in the stock market over the long term. If you don't have the stomach to stay the course when your net worth decreases by, say, 15% during a single week, as two of your major holdings report quarterly earnings below what analysts expected, don't plan for maximizing your returns, because the higher the returns, the higher this fee typically is. Suppose 8 years ago you could visualize Apple growth plan, you invested a large portion of your net worth in the stock. I guess you could be rich by now. However, could you afford paying the price for this journey? Apple has, during this period, had many major downturns. Would you have sat still in that boat during 2011 when Apple lost tons of customers and the stock price fell by approximately 70% from its peak during the ensuing month? Your investment returns would look terrible. Would you still think that being almost all in Apple is a good idea? That would be terrible and daunting to some extent. Of course, an extreme example, but even if you have something less extreme than an all-in Apple approach to investing, you'll have to pay the price of volatility nonetheless. Stock market investing is a great thing that enables wealth creation like few other options. But don't try to fool yourself. It doesn't come for free. All investors will experience volatility, and you have to look at it as the price you pay for a brighter future. Number 4, no satisfaction. It's a very interesting phenomenon that you can hand somebody a $3 bonus, and they're fine until they find out that the person next to them got $21 bonus, and then they're sick for the next year. Capitalism is great at doing two things, generating wealth and generating envy. The urge to surpass your neighbors, peers, and friends can help energize your hard work and strive to really make it. Moreover, being motivated into becoming more productive and doing meaningful work is a good thing, but social comparison can also cause us to feel like we're never satisfied. Let's check some analytics. For you to be part of the top 1% highest income earners in the United States, you'd have to earn somewhere around $300,000 a year. That's what a highly specialized doctor, earns, and by almost any standard, this doctor would be considered rich. He or she can afford to drive nice cars, go on long vacations to exotic countries, perhaps hire someone to do work which he thinks is monotonous. This doctor has been feeling about himself and what he has achieved financially in his life. However, that was until he bought a vacation home in Banana Island and realized that he had another guy as his neighbor. This guy works in a quite large public company, and earns approximately $8 million per year. Actually, you'd hope that at least this person who works for a big public company would be satisfied with his financial achievements, but that would be wrong. Take another example. Michael occasionally attends parties with celebrities where a guy named Carrick shows up. Carrick increased his net worth by about $60 billion in the year 2018, now sitting at something like $170 billion. There's always something bigger. The type of envy which has emerged from comparisons of this kind has caused a lot of people to do foolish things throughout history. Some have leveraged their portfolios to the teeth in order to move up to a higher level, just to lose it all and then commit suicide. Some have acted on enclosed information and lost both their personal reputation and then later their freedom when they've gone to prison. Many have forsaken their families and then had their partners leaving them or cheating on them as a result. By watching this channel and learning on how to become a successful investor, chances are that you will at some point reach a level of financial freedom that the average human can only dream about. But you need to, at some point, accept that enough is enough. You cannot trade something that we have and need for something that we don't have and don't need, even if we'd kind of like to have it. Number 3. Act crazily curious. At a first glance, it seems like a lot of people do crazy and funny things with their money. Some spend it in ridiculous amounts on ridiculous items. The thing to remember is that people come from different backgrounds with different childhoods, reputations, different guardians, different life experiences and different educations. All these add up to different perspectives and values. What seems crazy to you might make total sense to somebody else. Take the example of lottery tickets in the book. The lowest income households in the US spend more than $200 per year on the lottery. This is 4 times more than the average in the highest income group. When you group this together with the fact that more than a third of Americans cannot come up with $400 for an emergency, do these people spend their emergency buffer on lottery tickets? That seems crazy. But again, we don't have the same perspective as those kind of individuals. Try to see it from their perspective. They live paycheck to paycheck, with little room to save money. To be sincere, this really is my dad. These kind of people often lack education and thus a nice career path. They can afford a nice vacation or a new car. They can put their children through college without a mountain of debt. Buying a lottery ticket is their way of buying into the dream that many of us already live. That is why they buy more lottery tickets than the rich do. Not so crazy after all, perhaps. So, how does this make you a better investor? For one thing, by acknowledging that we are different, we become less tempted to copying an investment portfolio or strategy which doesn't suit our own objectives. Take this example. Our own risk profile might be higher than a billionaire, as our own focus is more on the getting rich part, and not so much about staying riches. Copying the rich portfolio might be suboptimal for your goals. Acknowledging differences can also help us to say no more easily to investments that are outside our own circle of competence. Don't participate in GameStop if you are not really into its familiarization. Understanding different people's perspectives, or at least that there are different lenses to see the world through, will help you make better sense of our society and lead you on the path that is yours. Number 2, take action. Disasters and calamities have great impact on our investments. COVID-19 pandemic greatly affected the stock markets as it is visible from the statistics. They had huge impacts on the financial markets, and they were pretty much impossible to foresee. Human nature fools us into believing that we should have been able to know it would happen all along. If you invested 20 years ago, but missed out on the 4 best performing stock market days, you'd have a lesser return. That's quite a big difference. What we learn is that it is more useful to prepare yourself, both mentally and financially, for a disaster which you cannot foresee than hoping that you're able to react before everyone else. Stop listening to weak predictions. The things that will cause big fear among the investment community in the future are the things that are unlikely to be foreseen anyways. Number 1, Pessimism. If I were to give you a bunch of reasons to why the market will crash later this year, mentioning the gigantic US governmental debt, that stimulus checks may lead to the return of inflation, and perhaps something about new strains of COVID-19, you would most likely be intrigued, and perhaps end up with quite a negative view of where in the market cycle that we are at the moment. Were I instead to give you examples of why things probably will continue to get better, by showing how life expectancy is rising, how sustainable energy is getting cheaper, or how computing power is exploding, you would most likely just rub your shoulders and not think twice about it. We all know that the pessimistic person sounds so very intelligent, and the optimist sounds naive in comparison, because the absence of symmetry towards loss and listening to pessimists is an evolutionary trait. When directly compared or weighted against each other, losses loom larger than gains. Organisms that treat threats as more urgent than opportunities have a better chance to survive and reproduce. We tend to listen to pessimists more carefully, not only for evolutionary reasons, but also because progress happens much slower than setbacks do. Progress rarely happens overnight, but setbacks often does. Because tragedies and setbacks happen during much shorter time periods, it's much easier to create an intriguing and persuading story around it, and thus it receives more attention. To create an optimistic story about the future, we must look at longer time horizons. This often becomes more vague and less dramatic. Knowing that you will perhaps be more fascinated by a pessimist, and less so by an optimist, can perhaps help you becoming less asymmetric towards it in the future. The world is better than you think. You are not going to get rich in the stock market without paying the price of volatility. Never risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. Different perspectives cause different courses of actions to be reasonable or rational. Instead of trying to foresee disasters, prepare yourself mentally and financially so that you can survive them. And be careful when taking investment advice. Understand that pessimism appeals more to your survival instincts than optimism does. That was it for today, guys. I hope this information have been helpful to you. Please make sure to subscribe and give a like as well if you want to understand more about the human psychology and its relation to money. Thanks for watching.